We visit with the folks from the city of College Station on Friday, and Colin Killian's here this morning. How are you today?
Doing wonderful, Scott.
Good. Brought a city councilman with you.
Yeah, we're very happy to have Councilman William Wright.
Yeah, William, good morning.
Howdy.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I love being here.
So I saw an interview that you did with Texas Cities, I think was the publication.
Yes.
And what was that? When did you do that?
Oh, gosh. That was a little while ago.
Yeah.
That was like 3 or 4 months ago. I actually forgot about it until you just mentioned it.
Well, because they ask an interesting question,
Okay.
and that is, what do you call a citizen of College Station?
Yep.
And what did you come up with?
I don't, would I say College Station Night?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think College Station Night's the way to go.
And I think that's probably right. I never had thought about it before.
Yeah. I feel like growing up here, it would have been just, you call them an Aggie. But,
Yeah.
you know, beautifully, we've grown a little bit past that. You know, when you got 51% in the private sector now, you can't call them Aggies anymore. So we're College Station Knights.
Yeah, so you weren't born here, but you got here as fast as you could,
Yeah,
right?
like 6 months old, yeah.
A&M consolidated graduate,
That's
all that
right.
kind of stuff. So that's kind of fun. Kind of like to go back to last city council meeting.
Okay.
Get your thoughts about the housing action plan, what you heard, what made an impact on you.
Yeah, well, I think it's really smart and progressive of us to even put that sort of committee together, because I think it shows that we have a commitment to try to address housing issues here. I think I mentioned in the meeting, though, that this is a nationwide trend, that I don't think our one housing committee or one kind of way to combat it is going to solve the issue. It's a lot of just different things, and there's a lot of variables that stack up against it. I mean, you're dealing with just overall income, you're dealing with pay wages, you're dealing with kind of everything, and scarcity of land, and it all comes together to form this bit of like a housing crisis in the area where we just don't have enough homes for the people that want to live here to live in at a rate that the salaries here are really allowing them to. But as I've said in the past, as we talked about this, I think that one aspect of it is changing the idea of what kind of home people like. You live in a duplex, a mobile home, an apartment, like all these things are homes. And it's really just having enough inventory of that and letting people have options. And so some of the steering we've done with the high occupancy overlays and middle housing and stuff will eventually address some of that. But with A&M letting in 1,500 kids in a semester, it's going to be an uphill battle the entire way.
Yeah, it's, and the whole idea is, the term workforce housing is used in a lot of markets, but it really can't apply to College Station, because these are people who have a limited amount of money to spend for housing, but they're not part of the workforce because they are students. So that kind of means it's a different prism that you have to look through. Do you address those two things separately, or do you think they should be put together because you're looking for affordable housing?
Yeah, I mean, you can take any number of approaches. I mentioned at the council meeting that you're combating. You have two applicants there for the same apartment. One is the student that might be just got a government loan to pay for school and they have the money to pay for a semester or whatever. And then you have a family that maybe is more workforce type income, and they're competing for that same one. And the student's going to win because maybe they're flush with cash from X number of reasons. So you're dealing with like government loans there. You're dealing with all sorts of stuff. I mentioned that I had just gotten back from a trip in Colorado where it was a tourist type town. It was Ouray, and the local businesses there bound together and bought a motel for their workforce, and the workforce could live there. That's not something that'll probably work in College Station, but that is something there's going to be an onus that leaves from the city and is put on businesses and the university because it's an issue that affects everyone, and there's only so much the city can really do.
Well, but we've had hotels go out of business in these cities.
Yep.
I mean, more unusual things could happen. We've talked about school districts buy apartment complexes. That happens in cities in Texas. So as we move forward from that, then the other thing, you had your first RU over in the General Ashburn area, I guess if we could call it that. Is that the first of many? Because I think Planning and Zoning looked at that again last night. If folks don't know, you were a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Right. So you've looked at this for a long time before you came on council.
That's right. And I think RUs help in the long run. It's not a solution to fix anything at the moment. It's a solution further down the line where you're saying these single-family neighborhoods will be preserved as more of a single-family neighborhood because you're locking in necessarily how much you can get back on your ROI. You're not going to be able to sell that and rent it out to 4 individuals. It's going to be locked at 2. And so that's really a bet on the future, which is, a lot of what you try to do now. The housing issues are not a fix that you can do immediately necessarily. You look at changes you can make for the future.
So between these two things, between the RU and the affordable housing, how big a role can the city play? Should there be a housing authority? What should you do to help builders as you move forward on this?
I think steering folks, which is I think is what we're doing, towards different types of products and opening up different zoning so that you can put those products there is important. Not that long ago, 2-3 months ago, Greens Prairie Reserve, which is very high end, lovely subdivision, they wanted to put some townhomes at the front of it, which I'm 100% for. That's not necessarily for workforce style income, but it also is putting more bodies in less space, which is really what we're going to ultimately have to do. So what the city can do is free up some of that zoning a little bit, be flexible with what's happening, and be open to really what the future of the city is, which is to have to build up because we're landlocked.
Sure. William Wright, who's Place 2 College Station City Councilman with us, you'll be approving the budget before the end of the month. Last look at that. What's standing out right there? I mean, for a guy who was raised here all your life, $500 million is a whole lot of money, as we've talked about to other elected officials here. Give us your thoughts on that budget.
I really like the budget. I didn't have hardly much to complain about, to be honest. I think that what excites me the most is how forward thinking it is. It is almost $500 million, but we have a pretty low tax rate comparably to other cities. We have quality of service that is through the roof and astronomical. We're always ranked very high on places to live. But I also think some of those more nitty-gritty details, we're really focusing on protecting the city going forward, especially in regards to water rights and things like that. And that's not very sexy or fun, but those are the hard decisions that you hope that your elected officials are looking at and your city staff is, so that in 15 years, you actually still have water for the $500,000 home you just bought, which in reality is what we're fighting. We want to be able to still have water 15, 20 years from now, but the way things are, that is not a guarantee. So you have to make smart decisions now to make sure that you're ensuring a future for your citizens.
We've been talking to candidates about it at candidate forums for at least 3 years, and now the reality of mass transit system, going to have to start opening up your pocketbook a little bit. That's now. Right. As one member of council, what do you think this city's job is to help its citizens, number one, and then secondly, what you can do to dovetail with the other citizens in the county?
Well, I think that mass transit is important, and while I don't necessarily think that it's utilized to its fullest extent right now, I also think that so in case you don't know, we're going to have to start paying into it. It was basically subsidized by the government because we were under a certain population threshold. We've passed that, so now we're going to have to start paying for it. And so I think with that is going to come a better relationship with BTD, the transit district, to make sure that those bus routes and those buses are really serving our citizens the best we can. Because maybe a route just up and down University is the answer, or that could just better serve how people are actually traveling and not just one big loop. And I think when you're actually putting capital into that and money, you're going to have more of a say. So I think you can kind of guide that towards more of your needs. I think that in terms of paying for it, I have a couple ideas, because we're going to have to pay for it every year. We did our parking pilot program in Southside, and that went really well. And if we continue that, I would like to probably put forward perhaps an ordinance that says money captured from that has to go towards BTD. So folks that are coming here or feeling like, hey, their neighborhood, we're charging for that parking spot, it's actually going back towards the city directly.
Some cities in Texas are trying the kind of unconventional idea of Uber or some sort of a pay share situation. Any attraction there for you?
No, not particularly. I think we have a proven bus route with A&M, and I think the BTD does what it can right now. I think it's going to take minor tweaks, and it's going to eventually take a different mindset of, hey, this mass transit bus system, whatever, really works for me, and it really is going to get me from A to B. And I don't think there's a lot of confidence right now from the general public that it does work that way.
You have a lot of vehicles and you have a lot of knowledge at A&M because they've had to move these students around the city for a long time. Do you see a system where BTD and A&M would come together with using maybe the same equipment and the same routes?
I would hope that with all the knowledge that we have here that we can cross-pollinate a little bit. I don't know if we would ever get direct, interaction between the two, but I would hope that the best minds could help us figure that out a lot better. I think that's the way it should work, and if it's not, then I would obviously advocate for that.
What other things on future agenda are drawing your attention right now?
I was really excited about, future agenda, but I was really excited about the parks that came forward with the Texas Independence Park. I think we're making a lot of smart choices there to serve the community. I mentioned at the council meeting, I was a lot of that is driven by feedback we got from the community, which I think is important, because I think either folks don't interact with us or they think that we won't listen to them. But like 99% of the things that happen, it feels like, is from one citizen just coming forward with a complaint. And we try to listen to everything or coming forward with one idea. And so a lot of that park is set up from input from outside sources. So I'm excited about that. Other than that, moving forward, just looking to see what what the fall brings. I think we're gonna see some of the no more than 4 that was enacted, and it took we're starting to enforce that, and now as students are moving in, it's gonna be interesting to see how that affects us.
Sure, in reality.
Yep.
Finally today, I think this is the first time you've been in since we found out that the A&M's use for Macy's is not going to happen.
Right.
So that means College Station needs to get going on that, get something going. How soon should that happen in your view? Should we lock a deal in? And secondly, as one member of council, what are the ground rules? What's important to you for College Station to buy a piece of property in the future?
Right. I think for buying a piece of property, a lot of municipalities buy property for a lot of reasons. Our neighbors are buying a lot of like single family homes for reasons that they need. And we bought Macy's. Like I said, we bought the Foley's building. We'll call it the Foley's building. But we bought that building to steer economic development in that area. And I think that I think there should be no timeline because to do anything with that until it's the right thing that will help spur development over there. And because we own that area, I think there is a lot of movement in that direction. I mean, that's one of the biggest corridors in the city, one of the hardest corners, and it would have been a shame to let it go to something like storage or something like that. So I personally, as one member, will hold on to it until the exact right thing. The esports falling through is perfectly fine. It might not have been the best spot for it. It might be better for things that serve that sort of Wolfpen Arts District better. We're going to hopefully put a lot of money into Wolfpen Creek over the next few years, really ramping that up to be something more like a big city park and a destination area. And I think that we can definitely make that Foley's Macy's building into something that complements that well.
I can look across the street, whatever that street is that runs back behind the ball. Okay, there's a piece of property right there. There's basically an eyesore. We thought something was going to happen there. Yep. It didn't. If that came available, is that something that would be attractive simply because it's proximity to another piece of city-owned land?
Personally, yeah, I don't think anything for me would be off the table as long as we can steer that economic development in the direction that we want it. Because ultimately, it will pay itself back. I have no doubt about that. And we make land deals all the time. We sold a lot of stuff out in the South College Station Business Park that just consistently makes money. We are consistently making money off of our land investments because people want to be here. I mean, there was an article this week about all the new places opening up in town, and 99% of that is in College Station. Folks want to be here, they want to spend money here, and they want to invest here. And so I think it's just a matter of time, and it's going to be the perfect thing that goes there.
Okay. William Wright, thanks for the time this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You bet. What else you got?
Well, we talked earlier about it's hard to believe football season is almost here. We're 2 weeks away, but that means it's also